They said it was impossible. They said, you can't put together the most elite team of comic book reviewers on the planet and do, a podcast or something like that? Despite all that, today we can proudly announce. Yeah, they were right. We couldn't do it. So instead, we brought you the most vile, ignorant, unprofessional group of comic book enthusiasts we could find. This is Panel to Panel, the Game Rage Magazine comic podcast. Yes, indeed, that's right. This is a very comic-esque movie. This should be in whatever the new Batman movie is.
Shit, this should be the all gas or trash thing, man. I need something grandiose.
Grandiose? Oh, you know what? I'm gonna work on that this week. That's what I'm gonna do.
Give me something spicy.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna give you some spicy shit. Maybe something off of the new Millennial Frog albums, perhaps. I don't know.
Give me something hip hop or orchestral. Give me some John Williams.
All right, you know what? I'm going to talk to Millennial Frog, and we're going to get this shit handled. All right. Anyways, my name's Josh, here today with Adam.
Hello.
And welcome to Panel, the Game Rage Comic Book Podcast. If you like hearing us talk about podcasts, shit. If you like hearing us talk about podcasts, you should listen to the BFN show where we talk about all of our podcasts individually. But if you like this podcast and you like to listen to podcasts, we have a bunch of other ones where we talk about a whole bunch of other shit that's not comics. So go to GameRageMagazine.com to check it out. At Game Rage Magazine on Instagram and TikTok. At Game Rage Mag on Twitter. All Gas No Trash Official on Instagram if you want to hear all the latest in news by keeping his ear to the ground. Old Adam over there, the Game Rage musical guy. Anyways. All right, so let's continue on with our review / discussion of the House of X, Powers of X series. And today we are continuing said discussion with issue number 2, but it's reading order number 3, House of X, number 2. And I said that in a fucking idiot way, but...
The dose.
So... let's get into it. I do want to say, because now this is, the third. We've read both both number ones of each, and I thought that it couldn't get any better. I thought they were just going to start strong and they were going to peter out. Shit, I was wrong. But let's get into why. So, let me get the mouse over there. We got the opening cover, House of X, with all the motherfuckers, all the mutants.
Yeah, you have shit. I can't really spoil anything, but there are different versions of Moira McTaggart.
Yeah,
and then you have the X-Men and some extra characters. Cyclops, Jean Grey as Miss Marvel, or the Miss Marvel. I think that's Blob.
Oh,
opposite of Mystique, and then there's Destiny. And I don't know who the fuck that is. I think that's Emma Frost.
Oh, yeah, it kind of looks like it.
And then you have an Apocalypse version of Moira McTaggart.
Yeah.
And then you have some of the Horsemen and shit. And then you got Apocalypse himself and Xavier and Magneto. It's kind of and then you got Nimrod covered over with the
cover
with the sticker,
yeah.
the little logo for House of X.
Man, what a dick maneuver.
Yeah, but this is a really cool kaleidoscope effect cover where you see all these different versions of Moira McTaggart, who plays a pivotal role in the Dawn of X. And man, what an interesting story that unravels in this specific book. But it only gets better from here on out, dude. As I said before, you don't need anything beyond this, because this is what in recent memory, this has been the best of the X-Men in many years. And it's just a damn shame that it was just this mini series that ultimately was the best of this run, or the best of this era of X-Men. And it is actually coming to an end, because some of the stuff they actually talk about with Moira McTaggart and Destiny it actually plays out in Fall of X, which is the whole Krakoan era of like just falling apart. It's very sad. And I'm like, I don't need to read. I don't want to know anymore. This is as far as I know.
This is as far as you want to get. You're just like, fuck it. I don't want to hear the bad shit. I just want to see all the good stuff. But it's kind of interesting how, she's got all the different versions of her or whatever. But then I feel like it's got obviously the characters that she's affecting, like, or involved with. It's like, I feel like this is going to be what it's like foreshadowing. Oh, this version of Moira McTaggart was fucking with Wolverine, or this one was doing something with her, and like this one was dealing with, I don't know, some shit like that. Like this one is the one that she's dealing with the fucking professor in that, whatever that timeline is, the one with the hat. So it's like a mirror, image, but it's also, this is who they were interacting with during that time or something. I don't know. But anyways, so we get past the cover and we get the little thing up in the front where it says, if you can find it in you to survive, if you are worthy, then I will make you into something more than them, something eternal. And that's
fuck, man. Wait till House of X4, because that shit I think is directly taken from issue 4, if I'm not mistaken. And if it's not, it's relevant to the issue anyway. So
yeah, all right. But that's an apocalypse quote is what it says,
right?
And that is pretty fucking cool. So now basically it's opening up with an image in a bedroom, and they're basically talking about Moira McTaggart. And they're talking about how, when she's 19 years old, she got sick, didn't have or like her fever was high, and it's just all this like crazy shit, right? And everybody thought she was going to die, essentially. And then literally the next day she's out there running around, miraculously recovered. And it talks about how many years later she gets married, she has a family, she's got all these kids, and that's like, her great joy, and everyone returns home. Everyone, they have like a family reunion like once a year or some shit like that. And they're talking about how she eventually died when she was 74, peacefully in her sleep. It was a good life. It was a human life, is what it says, right? And then it's predictable, mostly pleasant, not extraordinary at all.
And yeah, that's kind of the facade that we're presented with, that Moira McTaggart is not all that special. That for her first life, the life that she lived was pretty mundane. And then we get to the fact that, oh shit, Moira is born again in a second life. And she has all the recollection of her previous life, and things start to unfold of what is actually going on with Moira McTaggart.
Yeah, and it's talking about how when her second life happened, she was in utero and fully sentient, knew exactly what happened in the previous life, and she's like, what the fuck? So then she's just kind of talking about how, you might be crazy. You go crazy if you were literally fully aware of your previous life that you just lived, but you're a baby or you're an infant inside of someone else's like womb. You'd lose your mind. Like you'd fucking go crazy. And so basically she says because she had so many kids in her previous life, it kind of gave you a little bit of I don't know, like an edge, like, oh, I can deal with this. It's like it helped her cope with it, I guess. It's kind of how it's being, explained or whatever. And then it's talking about how, oh, hey, like after this second life that she was born into, like, oh, she's smart, like, because she knows everything, right? So it's like, oh, look at her. She's, doing all this crazy advanced, stuff, right? Oh, shit. I just clicked the wrong fucking button.
Just back.
Way to go, idiot.
Just go back.
There we go. All right. So then they're talking about, oh, wow, she's super smart, gifted. And they're saying that, no, it wasn't smart, or she wasn't special because of that. She was special for another reason, something that knew that happened. And essentially, this is the first time anyone's ever seen this mutation or whatever. This is the first time this has ever existed. And so then it gets down to like some more, I don't know, prose or whatever this is, but It's talking about how, she had to be careful not to and when she was young, she had to be careful not to tell anybody what she was, because she had to hide it, because, man, I don't know. She's like, I'm like 100 or whatever already, and I'm older than you, motherfucker, but I got to keep this under wraps at least. So she knew basically they'd be like scared of her if they were like, what the fuck is this? Like, because obviously they would freak people out, especially back in whatever time period this happened in.
Right. So something's going on with her that she's able to live multiple lives with all the memories of the past lives that she's went through. But in order to conceal what is actually happening, to not draw attention to herself, she's like, well, I mean, I'm kind of smart. Not really. I just know a lot because I've experienced a lot. I've been around a lot of things that I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go into academia because that's where I can kind of blend in with everybody else, because there's many geniuses that are doing university studies and going into academia and shit.
Yeah, and it gives her like good cover to be like, okay, I got to research this and figure out what the fuck how this is happening.
What's going on with herself.
So now that I can do that, I can kind of do this under the guise of, oh yeah, I'm just really smart. So I'm just looking into some shit that people would think you were crazy if you were just some normie. But now that you're some high level genius, oh, well, it's not crazy for them to look into something like this. And then it's talking about, she went to Oxford and, eventually she kind of figures out like, oh, she's going to do like psychology or biology, and that's what she's going to study. And so she did just that. She ran all these experiments on her memories, and she was like, okay, I'm not crazy. All right, that's the first step. We ruled out I'm not crazy. I'm not having some kind of psychotic episode or whatever. And one of the things that she figured out was that if she performed her role as it was in the previous life, if she was like passive, essentially, then whatever the event that happened would happen. Like she was kind of like almost reliving the same life, but just in different time periods. But it that to her proved that her memories were real. But she was saying that if she became active in it and a participant, she could change what had happened. So if she did something A in one life, and now she's like, well, shit, this is the same juncture comes to me in this second life. Oh, I'm going to choose B, and you change the course of what happens, essentially.
It's I think this is like quantum like mechanics or quantum theory or something along the lines that once you observe something, it changes.
Yeah, it's a Schrodinger's cat type deal. Like,
yeah, and even like particles themselves, when you observe them, they can be viewed as particles, but they all can also be viewed as waves. But it changes when you look at it.
Yeah, like your perception of it, just because you look at it, it changes into whatever you can comprehend or whatever, I guess, which is crazy.
Yeah, and this is exactly what's happening with Moira McTaggart, is that she changes everything. The outcomes of things. If she's a passive participant in life itself, then things unfold as they should. But if she becomes involved, then things get interesting.
Yeah, oh shit, things start to change. Why did it do that?
What happened?
I just clicked. Hang on, I just clicked the wrong button. God damn it!
All right, well let me pause this. So let's hold on a second, fellers.
All right, after I fucked it up, I have now recovered, and it's now back. So, anyways, so that gives you the cover to do all that shit, right? To be studying but like you were saying about the thing about quantum mechanics and all that shit, man, that is some mind-boggling shit, and it hurts my brain just to think about it.
Yeah, and I might not even be saying the right thing, but it is in the realm of quantum studies.
Yeah. So yeah. So she's talking about how like this, you would think this would be amazing if you wanted to fix everything in the past that you fucked up. Like if you wanted to change things, you could do it. But that was before that she knew what the observer effect was, and that simply by existing and watching it, it was already changing things. It was already affecting the outcome. And basically what she said seems to be like this gift was actually not even a blessing at all. It's a fucking curse, because now,
From her perspective.
right, because now you're looking at living all these lives, and like if just you being there changes things, well shit, now you're changing stuff without even doing anything. So like you don't know what you're doing to change. You can't fix that. You can't predict it. You can't, change it or whatever. And so basically she could never recreate what she had in the first life, is what she's kind of saying. It's like she would never be able to recreate it. Because, just basically meeting someone who is the love of your life, but everything about them already, and you already have the knowledge that they're never going to fix themselves, right? Like you're never going to change, at least because she knows this already. She knows how the thing goes, right?
It's like a terrible fucking Groundhog's Day, like a cycle you can't get out of.
Yeah, and so basically, she's talking about how like basically in this life there's no one to love, no one to be loved. Like this life that she's in now doesn't have any of that. No children, none of this stuff. So she wonders, being of a member of the damned, essentially, by having this curse, that if there was anyone else that was like her, she started to think about, oh man, I wonder if this is a thing. So then she talked about, seeing someone on TV, and it's Charles, and he's talking shit, or not talking shit, but he's basically just coming out and saying like, hey, no one needs to have these secret identities and all this shit. Like we should know who we are. Like, hey, I'm Charles Xavier, Professor X. I'm a mutant, bitch. Like this is when he came out and announced it to the world or whatever.
And it was to the shock of Moira McTaggart that there are other people that exist like her.
Yeah, maybe not exactly like her, but they have mutations or some sort of powers or whatever you want to call it. And so she knew that she's probably a mutant. So she's like, oh shit, that's probably what I am. Oh man. And so she's just like, I gotta talk to this dude. So she's, getting on a plane, and she's flying to America, and and died when her plane crashed into the ocean.
Fucked
man.
up.
That is so fucked up. It's like, oh shit. Again, she became an active participant, but the quantum whatever was like, nah, you can't do that, bitch. Like, here you go. Now there's a divergent path. And you went to go talk to this dude? Oh, well, you gotta die. You gotta start all over. Sorry. So
where does this put her at? Life 3?
Life 3, yeah. So she basically, from the beginning, just jumps into science, right? And she wanted to focus more on anthropology and genetics, and was actively looking for Charles when they were, both at Oxford. And so she knows that she knew that he was this. So this is like, and this is what's crazy is like you're living the same life in the same timeline, but not really. Like it's fucking crazy. It's weird.
You're going through all the same motions, but it rhymes. It's not the exact same thing as the previous life.
Right.
But you come in with all the prep work. You know all these things, and you're just trying to get to the part where you could possibly change the outcome for yourself. Or it's one of the strangest things. It's one of the strangest books in this whole miniseries between the two, that Moira McTaggart is kind of going through this hell of going through multiple lives to piece together herself, and also what her responsibility is, or what her role is in the grand scheme of things, especially for the X-Men.
Yeah. And so she's just basically trying to, she knows he's a mutant because again, she's already lived this life, and she knows who she knows who he is. So she's trying to like figure out, okay, now how do I navigate this? And essentially it's the combination of her, distaste or her dislike of her abilities, along with the, and yes, let's be honest, Charles Xavier's ideas are very arrogant. They're very fucking, what's that word? Rose-colored glasses. Like, oh man, this just should all get along. Everybody should be cool. Like, come on, man.
Because it is solely his vision, and the fact that he wants to be at the forefront of it to speak on behalf of all mutants, or maybe potentially speak on behalf of all mutants, and say what this is the reality that we should live in the future. I don't know. Not everybody's down for that, and it doesn't look like Moira McTaggart is down for that in this life.
Yeah, exactly. And so she says this funny thing right here about how it was that in combination with his thinly disguised God complex.
He does. He does, because you remember the first issue of House of X? He's like, to me, my X-Men with the godlike, like to reach out like that painting between Zeus, or it's God and man, and they're touching with the finger. It felt that way.
It did feel like that, and it's funny because it just further ingrains the whole, you know, Charles Xavier and Magneto are two sides of the same fucking coin. They really both want the same thing, but they're trying to get there by different means, I guess.
And Moira McTaggart is the edge of the coin.
Yeah, she's like she's that little brown shit that's around the side of the coin, like that's not the silver or whatever. So then now she's like, all right, this guy's not it. Like, he's not the fucking man to figure this shit out. She's got a disease, and that's what and then this is where we kind of see, she doesn't view her quote unquote disease as a gift, really. She's looking at it as a disease. It's like cancer or like fucking Alzheimer's or any of those types of things. And she wants to cure it, right? Which now you're looking at, okay, genocide. Like, now we're going to get rid of all the mutants, right?
Yeah, because this does play into Powers of X, which brings up this specific lifetime of Moira, that her actions have repercussions for the future.
Yeah, and it's very crazy to see that. Like, just because she wants to cure herself. Well, I mean, they talk about it. We'll get to it when they talk about it in that issue, but they bring up a good point about it. But yeah, so anyways, basically, she figures it out. She figures out the quote unquote cure for mutants. But it says, you know, hey, she never got a chance to use it because she wasn't allowed to. And it looks like all the scientists, everybody's fucking murdered, all these assholes. And basically, what's her name? Destiny. She's there with Mystique, and they're talking about, like, she's talking about Moira as like, hey, this is like a weird hole. Like, I don't know who the fuck this, like, the fuck is this? This is like a blank spot. Like, this is strange to me. I don't get what this bitch is.
Yeah, because Destiny herself is somebody that can foresee or has foresight to the future, and things typically unfold the way they should. But Moira McTaggart is affecting the outcome, and she does have a destiny, but she, up until this point, she's been deviating from what she should technically be doing, which is helping the mutants. And she probably did the worst offense, which was trying to create a cure for herself. And by proxy, she ends up creating a mechanism for people, for it to fall in the wrong hands.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Because that's the other thing is, it doesn't matter. And it's kind of this thing with any creation, right? It doesn't matter what your intention was. What matters is what people are going to use it for. So even if you had good intentions for creating, I don't know, whatever, let's say a gun, right? Well, it doesn't matter. What it's used for is bad or what have you. So, basically, she's saying how, like, Destiny thinks this is like some kind of a weird defense mechanism, but obviously it's she's invisible to other mutants. Like, no one can see that she's a mutant or whatever. And so then basically they're setting up they've destroyed this facility. And basically Destiny says, hey, listen, this is who I am. I can see the future, and I can't see your future because you have reincarnation. That's your mutant power. And but she's like, but yet I'm still here. So, and then Moira basically tells her, like, hey, if you're gonna kill me, just do it. Like, just quit being a bitch. Just get this over with. Why are you talking shit to me? Like, just knock it out. And so Mystique's like, oh, hey, like, we're gonna do that, but you know, if we gotta come back around and do this again, then, like, what's the point?
Yeah, at least we're gonna try to get something. They're going to try to get something out of Moira at some point. So it's like, why not now? Because we're just going to do this again in the next lifetime, and we'll be here, and you just wasted a whole lifetime if you just given us the information that we need. Or
yeah, basically. And so she's saying basically like, oh, this is knowledge is just this gift, but yet here you are like using it to betray us, to betray your own people, you dirty son of a bitch. And Moira is just talking about how like it's this is a disease, and she's like, I'm not trying to force this on anybody. It's just if you want it, if you want to be cured, if you don't want to be a mutant anymore, if you just want to go back to being a normie, all right, a normie human, you can do that by taking this cure. And that's where, like, you know, Destiny's talking about, like, oh, you think that's it? You think that's just where they're going to stop? This is what the humans are going to allow? Oh, no, if you want it, no, of course they're going to fucking use it to get rid of all of us. And so it's funny because she says, I have seen the potential of your good works and I do not care for them.
The good works being that she's created instruments for the eradication of X-Men.
Yeah.
Or mutants.
Yeah. And she says, well, how do you think you can stop me? You can't stop me. And Destiny says, hey, you think you're old, bitch. I'm way older than you are. And my powers are manifested full of the knowledge of what we have done. So if you try to do this again, I'll see the outcome and I'll find you again eventually. I'll get you, bitch. Like, I'll keep tracking you down.
It's like Christopher Walken and fucking Joe Dirt.
Oh yeah.
You do it again, I'll stab you in the face with a soldering iron.
So she's like, you know what though? We're joined together, right? Because your destiny, or I'm the destiny. I can see everybody's destiny essentially. And you are the only one who gets to relive shit over and over again. So we're linked, right? And it's adapt or die, change or die, right? Vote or die, motherfucker, vote or die. Like, so she basically says, if you don't help your people, I will kill you in all of your life. I'm gonna annihilate you every time you come back. And so she's just like, fuck, whatever. And basically, they go on to say that Moira kind of has immortality at this point.
But it's with a limit. There is a cap.
Yeah, and that's what she says though. Like, hey, by the way, like, you do have some version, but it's not. You may think that
it's not infinite,
but it's not infinite.
You have 10 or 11 lives.
Yeah, she sees 10, maybe 11 if you make the right choice at the end. But that's it. And she's like, what? How is that possible? And she's like, you know, you're born with each time of the knowledge of your previous lives. But if you die as a child before your mutant powers manifest, then you will not reincarnate. And you just simply end. You die.
And I do want to point out that this is the specific thing that I talked about the future storylines for what comes out of Dawn of X and eventually the fall of Krakoa itself, is that the X-Men, the nation of Krakoa just eventually falls apart because the Nimrods eventually the Sentinels. You remember the whole thing about like getting the Iron Man like blueprints and shit?
Oh, right, yeah.
They actually make the Sentinels
Iron Man?
like Iron Man technology with the Sentinel.
Oh, man.
So then it starts unfolding the way in like the first issues, the way shit was unfolding is that it's actually happening, and that Moira McTaggart, in order for them to get this right, because they thought they were getting it right this time with the nation of Krakoa.
Right.
But it's like, fuck, well, we have to kill Moira to make the best possible future for the mutants. So this is what they're talking about, is that the X-Men do eventually go after Moira McTaggart to end her life before she even gets to exhibit like her mutant powers. Or so you know how she reaches it at like her teenage years.
Yeah.
So they're gonna do it. They might possibly kill a child to save the whole future of the mutant kind.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So anyways, so she goes back into saying like, you know, hey, listen, well, Moira's like, oh, fuck you. You don't know shit. She's like, well, listen, bitch, you're the scientist, you know, what how would you prove that? And she's like, oh, I test it, experience it, and do it myself in my next life. And then Destiny says, but the question is, will you?
Yeah, because I mean, that involves her losing 4 or 5 extra lives to test out her theory. And it's like, well, do you really want to fuck around and find out?
Yeah.
So
and she's like, oh, fuck, I don't know. And
it's a hell of a gamble, dude.
It is a hell of a gamble. And then basically Destiny says, well, fuck it, let's find out. You're fucked around? No, let's find out and see what happens. We'll see where this goes. And then Moira says, I don't want to die like this. And she says, dying like this is what a life poorly lived gets you. And then she just says, Pyro. And then Pyro comes, he's, yes, mother. And then she said, burn her. And slowly, so she doesn't forget how dying like this feels.
Fucked up, dude.
That is fucking brutal. And he does just that. He fucking
incinerates her,
lights her up. So in her 4th life, she begins working with urgency. She threw herself into fully understanding what she would eventually call the human mutant dilemma,
which is a callback to issue 1 of the comic.
Indeed,
House of X.
House of X, yeah. And so then she basically is saying like, hey, when there's 2 aggressive dominant species, you either get they adapt or one dominates. Like, that's it. So, I just dropped my phone. Anyway, so she's looking at this from all angles now. And she's trying to look at this from an evolutionary standpoint. Maybe the world's going to need mutants. Maybe that's why this is happening. Like, that's kind of where she's postulating now. And again, back to this bar where she meets, Charles or whatever. And so she gave Charles a second chance, basically. She saw beyond his God complex and everything. And she's like, you know what? I see what's underneath. And she just basically boils it down to he was a mutant that had a dream, right? And, now here she is making out with him and fucking becoming romantically involved, it seems. So basically, she stood by him for the rest of their days through the Gifted years, and it shows the original, X-Men with their original fucking suits and all that shit. And then it, shows them through the time of hate and fear, and then it's like the evolved, like the 90s X-Men, basically, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Well, I don't remember when the giant size X-Men happens, timeline wise, but that's giant size X-Men and everything that happened afterwards. And then this shit going on right here, the Phoenix Force, when they get control of the Phoenix Force, because there was like an Avengers versus X-Men event series.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody just ends up getting OP, overpowered.
Yeah.
Because they end up using the Phoenix Force to kind of make their statement against the Avengers and shit. So, and then we get to the end game, which is where they lose to the fucking Sentinels again, dude.
Yeah, and they just get fucking wiped out once again. And then here we go in her 5th life. She figured out that aggression was the only acceptable outcome or response to the violent tendencies of humans. So she stole the means from her parents and she ran away at the age of 13 and came to America. And that was where she sought out Charles almost a full decade before they were supposed to meet. She opened up her mind, let him see the shit.
Yeah, she was kind of pragmatic about like, all right, well, waiting until meeting him at the appropriate time is not a good outcome for the X-Men or even mutants in general. So maybe I should meet him earlier and just let him know everything that I know so we can get to the point quicker, and let's have the prosperous era of the mutants is what unfolds.
And basically it turned him into a radical because he's like, fuck, there's no way that my dream as I see it now can come true without essentially just killing all the humans or subverting them or becoming the dominant species on the planet, right? So instead of the school, he built a legion, and he built a city full of man's evolutionary betters, and the walls held back the outside world of man. But Bolivar Trask's goddamn Sentinels had to come on down and come get him, right? Because they were like,
fucked
nope,
up.
You fuckboys can't have this shit.
Couldn't have it.
So then we get Moira talking about essentially she becomes like an assassin in her seventh fucking
Yeah, just like, dude, fuck this.
You know what? This is the source of all of our problems, Bolivar Trask. I'm going to kill everyone in his family. So there's no fucking way his whole bloodline is going to become extinct because of this. And that's exactly what she does. She goes through and she just starts fucking killing, just sniping everybody, taking them all out without mercy, no pity, killed all their children. I mean, wiped them. I mean, like destroyed. So then she learns the darkest truth of all her many lies regarding man's nightmare machines. Artificial intelligence is like fire. It's a discovery, not an invention. All she succeeded in doing was stopping a Trask from becoming the first human to burn their hand.
It's awful, dude.
Yeah, it's like basically no matter what you do, someone's gonna find it.
Someone is gonna create the technology for artificial intelligence and eventually the Sentinels. In this case, it wasn't Bolivar Trask that did it because they wiped out the family, and it still didn't matter because it's an inevitability at this point.
Right, and then she basically says that like mutants, the machines just simply emerge at a certain point during societal and environmental evolution, and there's just nothing you can do about it. You can't stop. It's like one of those hard points that they talk about like in the past or whatever. Yeah. Like you can't change that outcome. And now basically she loses all hope at the end of the seventh life as she's being killed by the machines. And now she has been radicalized. So in her eighth life, she leaves behind Charles Xavier and embraces the necessary evil of the master of magnetism. Yeah. So she told fucking Magneto all this shit about the future Holocaust, the wars, the people destroyed. And then, whatever, Magneto's pissed and he's losing his fucking shit. And then we get into... He basically just goes out and just fucking starts fucking everybody up. But then he eventually gets killed by Earth's mightiest combined heroes, which is the Avengers and there's the X-Men involved. Like
traitors, dude.
They literally traitors. Yeah, they betrayed him to kill him, and they believed that it was for the greater human good.
And eventually they will probably end up losing to humans, even though they try to curry favor by eliminating Magneto, but it just doesn't work. It never fucking works out for the X-Men, dude.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And so basically after that experience failed, she's like, well, there's not a lot of time left. This is my ninth life now. And now I have to embrace this idea of just evolutionary dominance. That's what needs to be. Survival of the fittest, right?
Who else does she turn to but good old buddy
Apocalypse? And it's funny because she's like, oh, some thought him a monster, some called him evil, but it's like, oh, then it's like, oh, everybody said he was just an asshole, but he's a really nice guy, he's not that bad. But to Moira, he was simply the only solution she hadn't tried, man. That's the one thing that she didn't try yet. And if the humans wanted a war, then they'd give him one, an unending war. And then you see Apocalypse fighting
fucking Nimrod,
man. He's fucking fighting it up. She's fucking shooting everybody. And then, after all the lives lost, after the end of the wars, armed with the knowledge that all the old ways of thinking, that they'd never change, it'd never be enough to save her people, she decided to try something truly revolutionary. And in the 10th life, she decided that her and Charles Xavier would break all the rules.
The worst part is that she's an infant again, and she still has to go through all the same bullshit to... it's so creepy because it's like the eyes are awake and she's like, fuck me, I'm back.
And she's like, God damn it. Like so angry.
Like a furrowed brow.
Yeah.
A furrowed brow, just like, here the fuck I am again with my 10th goddamn life. already not working again. Maybe this time will be different.
Maybe we'll figure it out this time. Maybe this 10th time will finally be the time that actually fucking works. And so that's when we're back to this fucking scene of them like sitting at the bench like we got to see in the first issue. And she's just, they're talking about, oh, like, it's that same conversation about why he's smiling or whatever and all that. He's talking about his wonderful dream. And then she just tells him, hey, it's not a dream if it's not real. And he's like, what? Do we know each other? And she's like, oh, yeah. We go back quite a bit of ways. And then it shows that scene where he like looks into her mind and he's like, holy shit, you're right, bitch. And this last page, I am here. I have always been here. Moira X.
Or Moira 10.
10. Oh, that's right. Sorry.
Life,
10th life. Yeah. I'm here. I've always been here, man. This is like, which, man, it's like crazy to see on the scale of time, like where that, and then it's like, it goes into this chart with like all of her fucking lives and like how they like intertwine and like, it's a mess.
Yeah, it is. Cause there's a lot of similar notes across all of them where she ends up at Oxford in pretty much every timeline or every life that she lives. And then things start to deviate. There's the one where she ends up being an assassin.
Yeah.
There's ones where she ends up being a scientist and studying all kinds of topics and stuff so that she can understand herself and mutant kind in general. And obviously her philosophy changes in the course of her lives, that at one point she hated being a fucking mutant. And then she became more embracing of the idea of being a mutant. Once she got to know Charles Xavier, then she realized it didn't work for her, or rather that going down the Charles Xavier route, it doesn't work. So then she becomes more radicalized. Then she ends up going with Magneto and then realizes that Magneto's path doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then Apocalypse's path doesn't work. She's like, God damn it.
Nobody's path fucking works. So now we got to figure out what the fuck we're going to do. And really, it is crazy to think about. It is all on her. She's the only one that could have known this or could have lived all these lives to figure out how all your guys' plans failed. And that's where she's like, hey, listen, I'm telling you, you can see it. Everything. I've tried fucking everything. Even siding with the big bad Apocalypse. And that still didn't fucking work. So you guys are Professor X is the smart one, right? Here, let me show you everything. And knowing all this, what do you got? What do you got for me? What can we possibly fucking do to fight this or to win? And that's pretty much the end of the issue. This issue was fucking great. It was sorry, go ahead.
It was character specific, to Moira McTaggart, but if I'm not mistaken, each life that she has lived, like this was just conveniently wrapped up together by Jonathan Hickman.
Yeah.
That there have been different incarnations of Moira McTaggart throughout the continuity of X-Men, right? But he kind of, because I don't think she was even a mutant till this point, but he made it all cohesive in saying that, whatever writer ends up taking Moira McTaggart, whatever they end up doing with her, it all matters. Like now, every life, everything that happened in the past, since the inception of the X-Men, that all this mattered, and it's led up to this dawn. And that's like the fucking genius of fucking Jonathan Hickman, dude, is that he's able to create great stories out of the past history of an entire franchise, which would be the X-Men. And that's what he did with Fantastic Four, man. He just knows how to wrap things nicely, to make them all work together, to make every iteration of the character work, not only in grand scheme, but for his incarnation of the X-Men book, with all these fucking lives and the timelines that unfold. It's like, it's so cool, dude.
It is. And it's really like, what a great mechanism for like storytelling of how do you encapsulate all the past shit that you want to kind of maybe include or tie into this. You do it with a character who's lived the same life over and over again, but yet, so everything that's happened before it, you don't have to retcon shit because it all still happened. Like you wouldn't need to retcon any of this stuff because it still took place in the storyline. it was just, it's like the multiverse thing, right? It's like, well, all this shit happens, but it's happening in different verses. This is just happening in different timelines, I guess, really is what it is.
Yeah. And I don't remember how many times she was a mutant and when I lost track of that in this, but
yeah.
I don't remember exactly in how many iterations of the character she was a mutant and when she wasn't. But in any case, man, Jonathan Hickman made it fucking work, dude. It's brilliant, and it's so abstract sometimes. It's like, holy shit, dude. It just makes you wonder how someone so creative can come up with shit like this. And I'm just astonished and flabbergasted that this is the mind of like one person coming up with stories like this. Because I don't even think in a million years I could ever come up with things like this.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I've come up with a bunch of story stuff, and like I don't know, man. This is like interdimensional or like like traveling through time and all that shit. It just seems so far out of the realm of like what I would be able to come up with that it just seems like I'd never be able to do it. And who knows, maybe I'm wrong, but this is something else. I don't even know how to explain what this is, but it is something cool. I can tell you that much. It's cool as shit. And to see it all play out, it also does keep you guessing, because when you're watching a lot of this or when you're reading a lot of this shit, like you don't really know what timeline we're in here. You don't know which life of Moira you're fully in, I guess, when you're looking at it from these angles, because you're seeing all this play out, right? How every of the past 10 of her lives have played out. We're really only probably like the last maybe like 6 or 5 have been her trying to actively go and like make a difference for this specific mutant thing. But seeing how all that plays out, it's like, oh man, well, we saw all that now. So whatever's going to happen next has got to be some shit that this is her Moira 10, right? This is some shit. That's what I think this shit's centered in, is that 10th iteration of her. So that way, this is how Xavier becomes essentially that god figure or whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember. Okay, she might be on her 10th life, but I don't remember. Okay, so now that we're past the point currently towards the end of the X-Men falling apart with Krakoa and all that shit, right? My theory of why they went after her currently, I mean, I know we're just speculating because I don't even want to bother looking into what actually happens, but my theory about what they're doing with how to end this is that, well, they knew there was a fixed number of lives that Moira had, right?
Yeah.
So we're reaching the end of 10 and 11. So that means there's only 2 more chances for the X-Men to get it right. So why not try to kill Moira altogether, get rid of her, so that maybe this opens the door for infinite possibilities for the X-Men to succeed in one reality or one timeline, because it kind of revolves around her a lot, because there's only 11 chances to get it right, and they're on their final 2.
Right, because for seemingly at the 11th life, whoever decides to kill her when she's a child, so that she can't reincarnate and come back and do this again. So whoever that is that does that, whether it's a Terminator situation and the Nimrods go back in time and fucking kill her or some shit.
Yeah.
Who knows? But it's interesting to see where this is going to go. Cause I haven't, you've read this already, but I haven't. So it's interesting to me to see where it's going to go. And honestly, yeah, if you haven't fucking checked this out, it's a great fucking book, man. It's top notch. Like, this is probably some of the best storyline comic shit that I've read in a while. And I wish this would be a good show. Like, if they wanted to, like, this, if Disney Plus wanted to make this a show, this would be a great, I don't want to call it adult animation because that makes it seem like it's porn. Because that's not what I want out of it. But if this was
wait,
why is there porn in this thing?
Not exactly, but something ends up happening in the last, I think the last couple issues that gets a little
it's a little spicy.
Gets a little spicy.
Oh well, I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe you can make this a nice adult TVMA fucking like show or like an anime or something. Like this would have been cool if instead of making like X-Men the anime or whatever the stupid thing that was that they made, make this that. That would be fucking cool as shit. I'd watch that. So anyways, well, you got anything else?
All I gotta say is that revisiting this after 5 years, it only makes me love it more, dude. Because I was actually gonna just show up here and not read it because I already kind of have a familiarity of what ends up happening in each issue. But I'm like, nah, I gotta read it again because I gotta do the homework for this episode, and it just makes me enjoy what I've already known about these comics. It just makes me enjoy it more, man. It just makes me fall in love all over again. And that is kind of like a hard thing to have happen when you love something so much, like whether that's like a video game, or whether that's a video game, a film, or a hobby, is that to have that first experience again, you're like, oh, holy shit, this is fucking amazing. Because you can never have that first experience again, but I've been away from it long enough that I'm just like, this fucking rules, dude.
Yeah. And it's like, you can't, like, I've seen Star Wars enough times. Like, I can never capture that again. And honestly, with this, I'll never, like, I'm at least doing it now. I'm getting to have the first experience now, which is cool. So, but yeah, once it's done, I'll never be able to hit it again. But I mean, I'll read it probably again later. And like you said, oh, maybe another 5 or 10 years, or probably never, who knows? But it is fucking good. So definitely recommend people check it out. So anyways, all right, well, I guess that's pretty much the end of the episode. So
I want to get to 9 minutes. So
okay, all right, fuck it. Well, what do you got? You got anything? We talk comic related things. We don't necessarily have to just talk about this thing in general.
All right. So as I stated before, I think I'm kind of planning out what I think will be the course of action for the next couple of months for the comic podcast, because we're probably, I mean, shit, we're not exactly at the halfway point, because there's 12 issues to get for in total.
Yeah,
12 issues, and we're just getting to 3, so
we're like a quarter of the way through.
We're a quarter of the way through, but I don't remember. I'm gonna have to find out what the reading order is for the book, but I would love to look into Daredevil, like the Marco Cicchetto and Chip Zdarsky run, because I know it was great and the art is fucking great. And I forgot to mention, man, Pepe Larraz, dude, like his drawings. I love the way he draws women, dude. Like the way he the flowy hair, like the facial expressions, and I forgot the guy's name. Is it something? It's Gracia, or is it Garcia? The colorist.
Let me go back to the top here. Where'd it go? There it is. It is
Gracia.
Yeah, Gracia.
Yeah, Gracia, dude. Man, this duo, as far as the art goes, man, I just, there's not a better combination out there. I mean, a short second, not much of a degree of separation, but RB Silva is doing the art on Powers of X. But I just like Pepe Larraz more, but I just love the way he draws women, and like all the characters look cool, and the posing, and the way like fucking Apocalypse like stands so authoritatively, and when Xavier meets Moira McTaggart, and like he's like, oh holy shit, we've met before, and yeah, just shout outs to him. But much like Pepe Larraz, dude, there is a comic duo between Chip Zdarsky and Marco Cicchetto that rival what is accomplished here. And I think we can only follow up with another banger of a comic to do the Daredevil series that was released. Shit, man. I think it was probably 2020 or 2019, roughly. So there's a lot of shit to get through for that. Yeah. But that might end up carrying us for who the fuck knows, like the next couple of months. So,
oh yeah, all right.
And then after that, maybe I kind of want to read Immortal Hulk, because that book gets weirdly, it almost turns into Dante's Inferno, like with the Hulk. So it's
that's cool, man. Yeah. I've seen a couple of things, and you told me a couple of things about it, and I'm like, dude, that does sound interesting. Like I'd love to read that. So yeah, maybe we'll do that as a thing after Daredevil. That sounds fucking fun as shit.
And just to to have another podcast that we are going to bring this up, but Without Censor is going to have another podcast episode that we're going to have an artist that I've been looking into. This is going to be from the ground floor level to prove that Game Rage has their shit together and that we are wise to what is going on in music on the cutting edge. We're going to be having an artist named AKA BK, and what I think that name represents is also known as Brooklyn. So if you are somebody that is into interview podcasts, we have a bevy of people that we interviewed, and that list is only going to grow. Please check out this new episode that we're going to be having in the course of the next couple of weeks. So be on the lookout for that. We're announcing it here so that if you happen to enjoy the comic podcast, if you like us talking and just the way we think in terms of the comic podcast and shit, please check us out on the interview podcast Without Censor.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up because I was actually going to say that I would love to try to get somebody.
Comic books.
Yeah, I don't know if we could get like one of these guys, obviously, but like, man, we could totally get somebody who's like an artist or a fucking writer or someone. I'm sure they'd be down.
Fuck, dude.
I don't know who, but someone would be cool. And if we could do like what we're doing with AKA BK and find someone who's like an up and coming writer or artist and get on them like that's good and get on them before the ground, that would be the way to do it.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe like that's something we should really seriously like heavily try to look into.
Fuck, man, that's gonna require us to get into more contemporary comic books. Maybe not that much because it already is becoming problematic that we only have so much bandwidth to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I might keep in touch with certain things just to find out if I could find anything as far, because that would be cool to talk to a comic book writer or even an artist or maybe both to.
Yeah, maybe find somebody who's kind of like an independent that's not really, or maybe working for a really small place that's like just starting out.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have something that we enjoy, cool. Maybe we could talk to them and try to interview them and be like, hey, like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about doing the art or doing, coming up with the stories or whatever it is you guys, whatever they're doing.
Yeah. And I think what usually ends up happening is that some guys, they get put on the low stakes books for DC and Marvel. Like if we look into those people,
that
they'll put them off on maybe stuff that's not like main continuity or like the backstories. And then those people kind of climb through the ranks and eventually become the mainstay writers for DC or Marvel. So we kind of need to like look into people that are doing short stories or smaller books or the less important books, because that's just shit that's just kind of tossed to people that are just trying to get into the industry.
Yeah.
But the people that are worth their grit or worth their salt, you can find them. You can tell like who they are.
Yeah.
And it'll be easy to find them. So maybe we should be doing that so we can get, because that would be fucking sweet if we can get a comic,
like a comic book artist or a writer
or both.
If we listen, my ideal goal, if we could get the whole whoever did Shirtless Bear Fighter, that would be fucking awesome. Yeah. I don't know what their fame level is or if they're too big league for us or whatever, but man, that would be cool if I could talk to them. And, like you said, any like some smaller shit that's not, it's low stakes and somebody that's just starting out, I would love to talk to them and find out what it's like. Yeah,
because I mean, just real quickly, when you do find those people that are writing a great version of a famous character, right, that everybody knows, or maybe not so much a well-known character, but they're doing something. Imagine if we can get them on the podcast and talk to them and ask like, hey, in your eyes, what would you do with this? What would you do with these characters? Like, like what, that's something that we would ask them is like in Marvel or DC, what character would you like to work with? And how would you separate yourself from other iterations of the character? Like that would be so fun because then that can, once we put these podcast episodes out, it just puts it out into the ether and maybe it comes back to them and like, hey, we really enjoyed you on this book. Like, what what do you want to do with Batman, or what do you want to do with Superman? What do you want to do with the Teen Titans?
Yeah.
You're like, because you kind of proven yourself.
Right.
But these guys brought it out of you.
True. Yeah. That's very true. So I think that's where we're gonna. So stay tuned for that. Eventually, sometime, hopefully, maybe this year, we'll have somebody on in the comic book industry. If we can get a hold of somebody. And anybody listening, hey, if you're in the comic book industry, fuck, hit us an email, shoot us up, send us a DM. Fuck, we'll talk to you. We don't give a shit. So, anyways, all right, cool. We fucking made it to an hour. Thank God. All right. Anyways, yeah, so you can check out all other shit, GameRageMagazine.com, at Game Rage Magazine on the social medias, at All Gas No Trash Official for the music stuff and for Adam, and also spicy memes and whatnot. So, anyways, all right, cool. Well, that concludes this episode. Stay tuned for the next one, which will be
Powers of X 2.
Yeah, Powers of X number 2.
See y'all next week.
That was Panel to Panel, the Game Rage Magazine comic book podcast. Thanks for listening. If you want to know more and follow along, go to Instagram and TikTok. Follow at Game Rage Magazine. If you want to follow on Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. Tune in next time.